Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Jeremy Story, Police Chief. I'm going to talk about three issues. The first two probably are nothing new. These are things I've been talking about really since I was interim chief. The third one is probably something that's new. The first is juvenile crime, and unfortunately we've seen this throughout my time as chief, but especially this year with Young Park and then the most recent homicide kind of highlight the importance of this. We've seen just a level of violence go up in the last few years, and if you look at Class 3 citations, you actually see it kind of trending down, but you see the severity of the crimes that are committed actually going up. There are far too many repeat offenders who are juveniles, and this is a snapshot from earlier in the year, I believe around mid-year. But we have 6 juveniles in Las Cruces who have 11 or more arrests, and we have 37 between 6 and 10. And the average person, when you ask them, either hasn't been arrested or maybe they forgot to pay a ticket and got a warrant or a DWI. But to have 6 or more arrests as a juvenile should be a red flag. It's been really challenging to address these because of the current mechanisms that we have. We don't have a really good way to intervene and stop, especially as it escalates, until that child commits first-degree murder and then they're charged as an adult, and it's kind of intervention. But the goal, of course, is to do that, intervene before it gets to that point. This year, we've had 4 juveniles who have been charged with first-degree murder. Kind of along the same vein with just repeat offenders or frequent offenders in general. And when you look at evidence-based policing, there's kind of 2 main umbrellas. You have kind of place-based or hotspot policing, and then you have the fact that there's a certain group of people, which tends to be a very small percentage, that commit a disproportionate amount of crime. And we can call them repeat offenders, frequent offenders, familiar faces. But that is something that we've struggled with here as well as really everywhere. Our failure to prevent, or probably better said, to mitigate recidivism has resulted in a lot of damage to our community, our businesses, our citizens, and especially our victims. And just one area is pretrial detention. Now, pretrial, even if we changed it, it would not fix this because there's a number of issues at play that are resulting in these numbers that I'm going to show you here. Just as an example, if you look at Doñana County, we have 3 people who have over 100 arrests, 101 or more arrests. We have 8 people who have 76 to 100 arrests, 19 people who have 60 to 75, and 46 people who have 50 to 59 arrests. Now, if you go 40 to 49 or 30 to 39, that number continues to swell drastically. And again, going back to what I said earlier, most people either haven't been arrested or maybe made a mistake or two in their life, but to have this many people with 50 or more arrests should be a red flag. And then the final issue I want to highlight, and this one is probably new, is to modernize law enforcement training. There's several bills that are kind of floating around that are draft bills. Senator Maestas, who's vice chair of Senate Judiciary, kind of took this task on, but there's other people who have drafted proposed bills or model bills. And what they're trying to do is take the system that we have, which is built up over decades and decades. So what's happened is the legislature, there's an issue that's come up and they've kind of mandated training, let's say in the 60s or 70s. And then in the 80s, they've done that, in the 90s, all the way until a couple of years ago. And so you have all these different requirements that are in different places in statute or the New Mexico Administrative Code that have stacked on each other. And it's to the point now where I believe it's 51 hours of mandatory training in the 2-year cycle. And at the same time, law enforcement is required to do 40 hours of in-service. So now the mandates are higher. And I'm not even advocating to lower that. I actually think we need to do more training than that. But what's happened is it's made it very difficult for the Law Enforcement Standards and Training Council, which the legislature enacted a few years ago, to actually do their job. So what the bill does is different versions do different things. Essentially, they're trying to put the power in the hands of the council to create both requirements and curriculum to be more flexible. So if something comes up, we're not dealing with something that was important 30 years ago but may not be relevant now, but they can address AI and ethics in law enforcement. That's something that's coming up. We need to do a training on that. They can develop the curriculum and make the mandate now, which they don't really have the power to do that. That is all I have at this time. I'll call up the Quality of Life Director, Carol Bray.
Thank you, Chief Story. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Carol Bray, Director of the Quality of Life Department. And I'm here to request your support